So, for some reason, communication intensive assignment number 2 gives students the most stress and anxiety out of all of the assignments, even the group work one, and I'm not sure why. It's actually a fairly easy assignment, and I'm hoping kind of going through the lecture will help you guys a little bit. So, I'm going to go over the overview, and then I'm going to try to focus on examples, and then we're going to review chapter 12, and I'll give you some tips. So the assignment itself is called CI Assignment 2, Individual Instructions, Procedures, and Manuals. Focuses on Chapter 12. You can review 7 a little bit as well. We'll use 7 a lot more in the next module, but it can give you kind of some tips and tricks if you need some. But Chapter 12 is like, consider it the instruction manual for writing instructions and manuals. Okay, sounds stupid. But anyway, you're going to pick one of those 3 things to create. So you're either going to create instructions, you're going to create procedures, or you're going to create a manual. Your topic is extremely open. Do anything that has anything to do with aviation. Just make it obvious it's aviation. I don't care what it is. Okay. Your job is more about that formatting and making sure you have individual pieces for each of these. So you want to focus on what chapter 12 lays out for you. Okay. The assignment does have, so you're going to turn in this draft, and then you've got 2 peer reviews. You have a writing fellows meeting that you have to have if you're a student in the fall, and then you have a writing center assignment if you're a student in the summer. And again, really the whole focus is on chapter 12 and using chapter 12 to create whichever one of those 3 things you choose. So this screenshot is of the first half of the assignment. I took the second half and kind of made it bigger and its own slide. So if you were to scroll down on the first half of the actual assignment, this is on the bottom part. Okay. So for instructions, you need those bulleted things. You need each one of those. For procedures, you need those bulleted things. You need each one. For a manual, you need each of those bulleted points. Where do you find those bulleted points? Well, they're in chapter 12, okay? So just a review of your assignments really quick. The one that I just had up on my screen and the previous one before that is 3.4 CI Assignment 2. I talked about that you need a writing fellows or a center meeting. Writing fellows if you're the fall, online writing center if you're the summer. You have 2 peer reviews that are required. And remember, if you don't turn your original one in on time, you automatically get a 0 on the peer reviews. And then you turn in your final. If you look at the spacing in these, they're about a week apart. So your draft comes first. The next week, you have your writing fellows meeting due and your peer review due. The next week, you have your final due. Okay, so you're taking steps, basically. So again, with your peer review, make sure you turn yours in on time first, okay? And you're supposed to go back to the original assignment, and then in the upper right-hand corner, there will be 2 more names or anonymous peers, or I can't even remember what it says, but it's for peer reviews, okay? Your job, grade it by the rubric, but then answer those 4 questions in the comments box for them. Okay, so can you tell which option they picked? Is it obvious? Which means you're going to have to know how to tell if it's obvious. Okay, and then do they have every category? Which is really easy. Just look at the bulleted list. Do they have each one of those bullet points? If not, what are they missing? And then number 3, are their graphics appropriate to the assignment and do they make sense? If not, please note it. And then the last one, how would you rate the usability of the instructions, procedures, manual as is, and how could the student improve? I'll talk about why that one's important and what usability is here in a minute. Okay, so that's your peer review, and then this is your final. In your final, add an abstract page, which can just be a paragraph, but it's on its own page, on the usability of your final based on peer reviews and improvements you made. So this is an example of like a part of a paper of what it looks like, okay? You guys have examples attached in the readings on every single one of the assignments. This is the same document, okay? It's just 1 or 2 pages later, and this is what the person focused on. This is what they did. Their formatting is consistent. They made sure to have each individual step. They put notes, they put cautions, they use diagrams. Okay, and again, you can see these examples if you go through the readings on your actual assignment. So like I keep saying, we're going to focus on chapter 12. Okay, the chapter tells you exactly what needs to go in each section, but you do have to read it. The chapter will actually provide steps at creating the document. Like it starts with the very basic structure and then gets more and more detailed as you go through the chapter. And it basically tells you exactly what to do. You just have to do it using something in aviation. The chapter itself starts on procedures instead of instructions, even though instructions is the first word in the chapter. If you guys can figure out why that is, let me know and I'll see if I can give you some extra credit points for it. There's actually a reason for it. Anyway, okay, procedures. Instructions starts on page 224, and then manuals starts on page 233 and refers back to the other sections. There's actually a little bit of overlap in each of the sections, so you really do have to actually sit down and read this chapter a little more carefully than previously. Toward the end of the chapter, starting on page 233, starts to talk about usability. Usability is where you're testing a product of some kind to see how user-friendly it is. How intuitive is it? Is it easy to follow? Are there too many steps? Do you use too much jargon or technical language? Okay, so you'll be focusing on this when you do your peer reviews. Think about it as you're actually going through somebody else's instructions or procedures. Do they make sense to you? And hopefully you'll get kind of a variety. You might not, though. One semester, everybody did like pre-flight checklists on the DA-40, and so it wasn't like everybody already knew what everybody was talking about. Hopefully you get a mixture of safety management systems, drones, pre-flight checklists, fueling, and then not everybody will know what everybody's doing. And it'll make the usability part a little bit more challenging, which is good, okay? But what I'd like you to do besides the peer reviews, find someone as close to your intended audience, so your peers, as possible. Get them to actually do the thing, if you can, whatever it is, okay? How did it go? Like, you guys have seen the peanut butter sandwich video, right? Where the dad makes his children write out instructions for making a peanut butter sandwich, and he follows it exactly as the kid tells him to. How does it go? Okay. And I love what the chapter says about usability, that the most common problem with instructions is that writers assume their readers have more knowledge than they actually do. So remember that when you're making your instructions and procedures. Not everybody knows what you're talking about. You know what you're talking about, but not everybody else does. So my top 3 tips for this, hopefully you've already figured out that the Using AI lecture and assignments gave you a ton of freebies on this one. If not, it's a little late. But don't overly focus on the content, just anything aviation, okay? I don't even really care what it's about. I just want to see all of the parts of the document. Focus on your formatting and really use that textbook. Use the examples that are in there. Obviously, don't copy them, okay? But they give you a really good idea of the variety of formatting that you can have that still matches the rubrics. Let me know if you have any questions on this one. Hopefully it's a little bit better and less stressful.